Hi English learners, welcome to Languistic. In this two-part series, we are going to enhance your writing abilities by exploring 5 common grammar errors that tend to pop up within your sentences. My name's Korrah, and I'm an English language teacher here with Languistic. I'm actually really excited to dive into today's topic because I know it is something that many of us have struggled with. Sometimes we don't know where we're going wrong, where we could be going wrong, or what to look out for in our writing. That's why I'm here today to break it down, provide some essentials, and guide your writing back on track. So, what is on the game plan for today? Today, we are going to explore some of the common grammar errors. We will explore some examples, and I will provide some practical tips that you can use within your writing. In part 1 today, we will cover sentence fragments and run-on sentences. This is like the building block and the structure of your sentences and paragraphs. We want to make sure that how we formulate a sentence is correct and just as strong as what is within our sentences. That brings us to part 2, where we'll be covering subject-verb agreement, verb tenses, and the use of apostrophes, so that we cover both the outside and the inside of our sentences to make our writing so strong. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, let's get started with the first grammar error that tends to arise within our writing. This is a sentence fragment. So a sentence fragment is like an incomplete thought or idea within a sentence. It is missing an important component. It's kind of like when you're talking to somebody and you start a conversation, but you stop and you don't finish what you're saying. So the person listening doesn't quite know what you're trying to convey. Why is a sentence fragment incomplete? Often it's missing a subject or a verb, sometimes both. So we don't know who or what the sentence is about or what they're doing. The sentence cannot stand on its own. It must be connected to another set of ideas. So this often happens because it's disconnected from a main sentence. Let's think about independent clauses and dependent clauses. Do you know what an independent and dependent clause is? Essentially, an independent clause is something that can stand on its own and be a complete sentence. However, a dependent clause cannot. And a dependent clause needs to be attached to an independent clause. This also relates to sentence fragments. We need to connect a sentence fragment to another set of ideas. Let's take a look at some sentence fragments. Running through the park. We are missing something. Can you tell what we're missing? We're missing a subject. We don't know who or what is running through the park. So we can't get an entire idea of this sentence. Let's take a look at the second one. Despite their efforts. Again, there, who is there? And what, despite their efforts, what happened? We don't know. In the last one, we have without a doubt. Well, we can say without a doubt, but we need to have something after that because we don't know where it's going. So let's try to fix these sentences. The first one, can you read it with me? I enjoy running through the park. Now we have a subject, I enjoy, which is a verb, running through the park. In the second one, we changed it to the team lost the game despite their efforts. So now we have a subject, we know the team. We have the verb, well, they lost the game. And then we can say despite their efforts. So this is actually a perfect example of where we connect a dependent clause to an independent clause, because the team lost the game is an independent clause. That can be its own sentence. However, despite their efforts is a dependent clause because it cannot be a sentence on its own. So there we connected an independent clause with a dependent clause to form an entire sentence. Finally, we have she answered without a doubt. So now we have the subject, we know it's her or she, and that she responded, she answered without a doubt. So we as well fix a sentence fragment to make a full sentence. So maybe when you're writing, you don't know if your sentence is a sentence fragment. Can this be on its own? Is it a complete idea? I don't know. What should you look out for? Ask yourself, is there a clear subject and verb? Do we know who or what the sentence is about and the action or state that is occurring? The second tip I have for you is complete ideas. Ask yourself, is this a complete idea? Can it stand on its own? Do you think somebody would understand what I'm trying to say, or do I need to provide some more details? If you need to provide more details, it's probably not a complete idea, and you should revise and edit your sentence so that it is comprehensive. And finally, we have dependent clauses. Ask yourself, is this a dependent clause? Does it need to be linked to an independent idea? And if it does, that's fine. You can use a subordinate conjunction. So what is a subordinate conjunction? This is kind of like a transition word, something to link the two. Examples of subordinate conjunctions are although, while, since. These transition words are really important to helping you form a good sentence. All right, I hope this helps you avoid sentence fragments and make complete sentences. With that being said, let's move on to run-on sentences. What are run-on sentences? These are kind of like the opposite to sentence fragments because it's multiple complete ideas in a sentence without proper conjunctions or punctuation. It's like listening to someone talk super fast without breathing and you don't know what they're saying because they just keep going. Independent clause can stand on its own. We don't really want to have multiple ideas that can be on their own linked into one. It's best to separate them for clarity. Or, on the other hand, you might add too many commas in your sentence. So you can have one idea and a comma and just keep linking multiple ideas. If you have too many commas, it's likely a run-on sentence. Separate them and create their own sentences. So let's take a look at some run-on sentences. Here we have the first one. I went for a run early in the morning. I enjoy the fresh air and it helps me wake up. As you can see, I had to stop to take a breath because this was a long sentence. I kept going. We even had a couple ideas there. We talk about how, okay, I went for the run early in the morning. I enjoy fresh air, and it also helps me wake up. That's kind of like three ideas that we could have separately. We don't need it in one sentence, or we could use correct punctuation to make this sound better. Let's try the second one. We have a long one here. It has too many commas. It's like we're making a list, but we shouldn't be making a list when we're forming a sentence. If you have too many commas, you should probably break up your sentence because it is a run-on sentence. Let's read this. I have to get ready because I'm gonna need a breath. I woke up early, the sun shining, had breakfast, cat on windowsill, phone rang, friend called, we talked, then went for a walk, weather pleasant. What was the main idea of this sentence? I don't know because there was so many different ideas in that sentence. So we should definitely break it up and separate it into some smaller ones and use the correct punctuation to do so. So let's read directly how I fix this just with punctuation and making longer ideas out of the smaller ideas. We have, I woke up early, the sun was shining. I had breakfast and my cat sat on the windowsill. My phone rang. It was my friend. We talked for a while and then I went for a walk. The weather was pleasant. We almost have a paragraph there where before it was in one sentence. So look out for correct punctuation and try to make it flow a little bit nicer. We can tell the main idea of each sentence there because it's very coherent and it's perfect. Let's fix the first one. So we changed it to, I went for a run early in the morning because I enjoy the fresh air and it helps me wake up. Just with the use of a comma and adding the word because, it made our run-on sentence a lot stronger and more easy to follow. Let's talk about some tips to avoid run-on sentences. The most important, in my opinion, is punctuation, because when used correctly, we can make a really long sentence easier to follow and also give the audience a time to breathe and kind of think about what they're reading. So using commas, we can separate elements or even create a little pause for the audience to breathe and think about what they are reading and absorb the information. Whereas a semicolon will be used to relate and connect two ideas that are very similar and related. And finally, we have periods, which signals that you are finished with your idea and you're moving on to something different. On the other hand, we can break up ideas. If you have multiple ideas in the same sentence, consider breaking them up and making their own sentence about them. This will actually make your writing stronger and easier to follow. Finally, we have combine ideas, which is kind of contradicting what I just said about breaking up the ideas. But if your ideas are related, combine them in a way that makes sense. So if we go back one, we connected my phone rang, it was my friend, with a semicolon, because these two ideas are related. Your phone rang and it was your friend. Add a semicolon, connect them, they're related, and they can stay together in a sentence. Thank you so much for tuning into part 1 of my 2-part grammar series on how to improve your writing by learning the 5 common grammar errors that tend to pop up within our sentences. I hope you learned something, and I'm really excited to get part 2 out for you so we can practice together and improve our writing together. My biggest tip for improving your writing is to keep practicing. Get a journal, write a little bit every day, learn some new vocabulary, and keep reading. This will really help you formulate strong sentences, and before you know it, you'll be writing like a pro. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.